Now, I want to talk about some debt, though. I want to talk about some debt situations. Okay, let's talk. I want to talk about, we almost got at this yesterday, and then we had to stop it. What is Gen Z debt? Oh, there's lots of things I want to watch, but we're going to talk about how Gen Z debt is out of control, essentially. Guys, we're gonna talk about how Gen Z ended up with so much debt. We're gonna talk about how Gen Z ended up with so much debt. We hear lots of bad stories about Gen Z. We hear lots of bad stories about, oh my goodness, they're in so much debt. Oh my goodness, they can't get a job. Oh my goodness, are they lazy? Are they too complaining? I don't know. Lots of complaints about Gen Z. But what I do know for sure is that they got a lot of motherfucking debt. Why do we think they got so much debt? Let's find out.
Young people are facing a serious debt problem. Between 2022 and 2023, boomers saw a slight decrease in debt year over year, while Gen X saw a slight uptick. But millennials saw their average debt increase by 8%.
Now, I'm assuming that millennial is mostly student loans, and then I'm assuming Gen Z is student loans and car loans because the car market went crazy during COVID when a lot of them were starting to get their first cars.
And Gen Z, more than 15%.
Many young adults are finding themselves sinking deeper into debt.
This credit card concern seems to be particularly true for Gen Z.
Young people today are being shut out of the American dream.
So how much worse off are younger generations? And how did it get so bad?
Yeah, I mean, the worst off question's big. It's a big question. Listen, here's the reality. Yeah, it is harder for Gen Z to get a house. Interest rates are higher. The price of houses are higher. Median income in the 80s that went to a mortgage payment was about 25%. Now it's 35%. The reason that ratio hasn't gone substantially higher, even though the prices of houses did, is because interest rates are lower than they were then. But because housing prices are so much higher in general, a more amount of money is required as a down payment. And that gets hard.
I am in debt for education.
Oh my God, I didn't know there was a word for it, doom spending.
I start getting overwhelmed about, okay, how am I gonna pay this off?
If you ask me how I would describe my generation financially, broke.
I'd say so, but if we get into the doom and gloom, you just never escape it, right? If you get into the point where everything's bad, there's nothing we can do, then you never get out of it. And here's the thing. Yeah, it's hard to get into a house, but in terms of those instant dopamine hits, they do have it more than any other generation. Not that that's what we're always necessarily celebrating, but you can do many more fun things today than you were able to do before. Consume more content, get more goods, get more services. You are able to do that, so they do have that. Now, a lot of people would say, okay, well, that's, it's not necessarily even a good thing. Consumer culture is too crazy. But they do get those instant dopamine hits earlier than any other generation.
Very broke.
The minimum wage is so low and it's not.
Doesn't matter. No one's making the minimum wage at this point. That may have been a good argument 15 years ago. No one's making the minimum wage. I'm sorry. You don't get hired in Austin for less than $15 an hour because it's impossible to hire someone at less than $15 an hour. Like, I'm sorry. That's just opening with that. Like, you're never going to get anywhere in life.
Livable.
I don't feel like wages have kept up with inflation at all.
Do I feel like my income has kept up with the rising cost of food and cost of living in general? Absolutely not.
Well, I will say this. During the big year of inflation a couple years ago when we saw like 8%, no, wages did not keep up at that exact moment, but wages did outpace inflation the 2 years following, if I'm not mistaken. I do want to fact check that real quick. Let's see. Tennessee doesn't have a state minimum wage. Same with Texas. So we have the federal minimum wage. Okay, here's what we had. Inflation rate in 2019 was 1.8%. Nominal wage growth was 3 to 4%. So that did outpace inflation. 2020, inflation 1.2%. Wage growth, 2021, inflation 4.7%. And average wage growth, pretty much nothing. 2022, 8% inflation. That's where we got the big one, where wage growth was 4.4%. So nope, that did not keep up. In 2023, 4.1% inflation, wage growth 3.5%, did not keep up. 2024 last year was 2.8% inflation, but 3.5% wage growth, which did beat inflation. So it's hit or miss year by year. But again, if we just get stuck in this doom, gloom, you're never going to get anywhere. You're just going to give up. And that's what I don't like. It might be harder. Reality is sometimes it is harder now than it was. But if you just give up, you give up. And what else is there to do? That's not for me.
I now make probably just a little bit more than I did when I finished undergrad in 2017. Meaning like
Okay. What do you do for work? That is all that matters. What was your degree? That is all that matters. Before you say this, I need to know what the fuck you do. Did you get an art degree or are you working at Starbucks? I don't know. Let's find out.
income has not gone up much at all, and I have a whole master's degree now.
Meet Shaheen, a licensed therapist living in Brooklyn.
The difference between Gen Z, millennials, and the Gen X and the boomers.
Gen Z, hold on. Whoa, is Gen Z 1995? If so, that means I'm actually Gen Z, according to this video. Hold on. Am I Gen Z? Oh, fuck. It's either good or bad, depending who you are. I don't know. Thanks, Ashley, for that hammer lead on YouTube. We are halfway to our goal. Thank you, everyone.
They had a lot more opportunity because their wages kind of matched up with how much things cost.
Well, we just went over the statistics. Even though you definitely lost it in 2022 and 2023, you did as well. So, no offense, guy. I want to know what your degree was. I want to know what job you have instead of just making excuses about the world and going out there and getting shit yourself.
They're not wrong. Younger people today are making less than older people did at the same age. Adjusting for inflation, 22 to 24-year-olds in 2013 were making almost $52,000 a year. That number today, down to $45,000.
Yeah, it's a hard time to be entering the job market right now. The job market is not very kind to people fresh out of college. We have a higher unemployment rate for those who are getting a degree, exiting college, than the overall unemployment rate. Last time we had ratios like that was in the early 1980s when inflation was, kind of high. Interest rates are really high. So, that kind of sucks. I'm sure we will have some kind of rebound at some point, but I definitely get that.
And that difference puts Gen Z in a tough spot. In 2013, the debt-to-income ratio for the same age group was 11.76%. Today, it's more than 16%.
Yeah, and what I want to see on that is the fact that it is likely heavily student loans. I bet there's some car debt in there as well, but I bet that is heavily student loans because the cost of college is going up indefinitely because we will allow people to borrow whatever they want indefinitely. So why the fuck would colleges ever not raise costs indefinitely? If people can get any amount of money they want from the federal government, of course college is just going to always raise prices. Always.
Technically, younger generations today are making more than any other generation did. But when you adjust for inflation, which is, relative to the cost of everything else to maintain a lifestyle, it is less.
Yeah, it's true. And, again, we already went over median percentage of wages that have gone to the mortgage in 1980 was 25%. Now it's 35%. So that is higher. It is harder to put more money down for a down payment now because cost of housing is higher. But I will say, for cost of goods and services that bring either joy in life, those instant dopamine releases, those are lower than they've ever been. It's easier to get a TV, easier to get a video game, whatever. Not that those are the ultimate life priorities, but, let's bring a little nuance to the conversation. Let's at least say that, okay, you can at least get some fun, right?
And from 2021 to 2022, for those aged 35 to 44, median income fell 0.8%, compared to a 0.6% drop for those aged 25 to 34.
Yeah, it's a big job market situation right now. I'm sure it'll rebound once we have just a big spurt of economic growth, but this is certainly a job market situation right now. Not a lot of negotiating power in the employees' world. It's definitely an employer's market.
But for the 15 to 24-year-olds, median income fell 5.8%.
Yeah.
That means the youngest generation saw the most significant drop in median income when adjusted for inflation.
Emotionally, about my wages and income, I cannot tell you how much anxiety I live through on a daily basis.
What's your job? What's your degree? That's all I care about.
I don't have a safety net. I don't have anybody financially backing me.
What's your job? What's your degree? That's all I care about.
I don't have a support system. I don't have anybody to go to if I don't hold it all together. And that is anxiety inducing.
What's your job? What's your degree? That's all I care about.
The gap between wages and cost of living has pushed many younger people.
Oh, he's a therapist. Did I miss that one? I fucked that one up. Licensed therapist? That's interesting because therapy demand is quite high right now. I wonder what he's trying to do. And therapists don't make insignificant amount of money. Obviously, definitely depends where you go. Fair enough. Good call out, chat. I appreciate that. But Yeah, I mean, I would just stack up. If you're in the therapist world where you are more of like self-employed, you're running your kind of, your own thing, you're not working for any kind of business, clinic, whatever, then I'd probably go year's worth of emergency fund, and that should make them feel more comfortable. Not perfect, but more comfortable.
To increasingly turn to credit cards to pay for goods and services. Last year, the average credit card balance for early 20-somethings was 26% higher than the balance millennials carried at the same age in 2013.
The boo-boos! I have them all on my show, guys. I just talked about how things are cheaper for consumer culture, services, and goods, but they're getting more than ever. And lots of entitlement for it. I always bring up the argument, well, you don't need this. I'll save up for an emergency fund. You're a therapist. You're a little nervous. You kind of run your own business. Let's save up a 12-month emergency fund. Yeah, but I deserve getting my McDonald's today. I deserve it. Okay, well, fuck off. I'm sorry. It's your personal choice if you're choosing McDonald's or a trip to Paris or having a fully funded emergency fund. Lose sympathy there.
Not only is Gen Z racking up credit card debt faster than any other generation, but
Same as
1
spending.
in 7 Gen Z credit card users are reportedly maxed out.
Well, do I have a show for you?
In this period of high inflation, people are just trying to maintain the lifestyles that they've always had, and it just costs more.
Increasingly, these low
Again, not for many of the goods and services, but for living necessities like roof over head especially, yes, that is true.
wages are also compounded with another big challenge for younger generations: rising housing costs.
Yes.
What I'm more worried about after graduation is affording a house. The market right now is kind of scary.
There's no way I could own a home. That's like a far-fetched dream.
The cost of like homes has just changed dramatically.
It's like
25 to 35% of median pay over the last 4 decades. That is true. 4.5 decades. From 25% to 35%. It is higher. It's not insignificant. But a down payment is harder now because 10% then versus 10% now is a lot bigger.
really hard to even rent.
The older generations just do not have a realistic view of exactly what we're dealing with. They grew up in a time period where you could go to work, you could like work a 9 to 5 and only that 9 to 5, and over time you'll be able to save up enough to buy a home.
Okay, well, no offense to Mr. Dude here. I mean, that's listen, yes, it was easier then. Let's be genuine. Let's be real. It was easier then. But to say you absolutely can't now is absolutely ridiculous. Before I ever did any kind of content creation, years before content creation, I did it. I paid off debt. I paid off tens of thousands of dollars of debt. I saved up a 10% down payment on my first house. I did it. To say you can't is a lie. Harder? Yes. Saying can't is a lie.
That's not the standard anymore.
The landscape for housing, both renting and buying, looks very different for young people today. Thanks to soaring prices and high interest rates, older generations, including baby boomers and Gen Xers, still make up the majority share of home buyers.
Yeah, and that's probably how it's always going to be, right? Going forward as the older generations, who's always going to own houses. I just hate for those that are like advocating for no property taxes whatsoever for older generations. It's just like, we've already kind of had the wealth transfer to older generations in general as they just hold on to real estate forever. It's like eliminating property taxes would just kind of accelerate that. Listen, property taxes are too high in many places. It sucks to pay a permanent tax on something you already own, but you know.
The barrier to entry to buy a home is much higher. You have to have a bigger down payment because the median value of a home is over $400,000, right? At the same time, borrowing costs are higher. They're at 7%. And so taken all together, you just need to save a lot more and a lot longer to be able to buy, a starter home.
For renters, it's also troubling. Rents nationwide climbed 30% from 2019 to 2023, while wages across the country were only up 20%.
Housing costs are just taking up that much more of their paycheck.
The rent goes up every year, the wages do not, depending on the...
Okay, wages are. I mean, that is a literal lie, but to say that it just never does, like, dude, I don't know.
We're only up 20%.
Housing costs are just taking up that much more of their paycheck.
The rent goes up every year, the wages do not. Depending on the month, it can be upwards of like 50% of my income.
Between housing being so expensive and income not keeping up with inflation, the debt crisis for younger generations has only intensified. But for many, including Shaheem, there's another much larger obstacle looming over them.
If I had to say which debt scares me the most, it is hands down my student loans.
Yeah, it's a big one, and it's, you know, college is only going up, and we allow for unlimited borrowing for unlimited amount of times at college. So there's no surprise. There's no surprise that student loans for each generation just becomes more and more and more and more. Who would have thought? I'm not surprised at all. There's now a cap on what you can borrow for college, though. In the budget bill that was passed and signed into law a few weeks ago on 4th of July, I think, actually, right? That is where we saw massive changes in terms of the caps you can borrow for going to college through the federal government. And I'm very curious to see in the coming years how that affects how much schools are charging and how much they raise it each year. It's absolutely crazy.
My tuition is around $90,000 a year, which is...
What? In what world do you $90,000 a year? Go to a different fucking school. This is your choice at that point. In fucking what world?
It's insane.
You meet someone from another country and they're like, it's what? Like, that's a lot of money.
I don't know the balance. Last time I checked, it was upwards of $150,000-$60,000.
One of the biggest debt burdens that they'll take on, and one of the first debts most Americans take on.
More than ever before, the very thing young adults are told to do to secure their future is one of the biggest reasons that the future is increasingly in doubt.
It is true. I mean, from an early age, right? It's like go to college, get a better job. Your student counselors, they don't focus on what you want to do for a career. They don't focus on where you should go to college. They focus on just the sole fact that, hey, go to college. Like, that's it, you know? That's what they hyper-focus on out of the gate.
We're seeing college enrollment levels drop, or we're seeing that
some
some students are trying
Matthew.
to be smarter about, you know, how they're going to college. Some are living at home, some are foregoing college altogether.
Let's look at the average cost of public universities since 1970, when a year's tuition cost around $1,300. In 2020, public university tuition was over $21,000 yearly.
Yeah,
Of course, that's
but again, I mean, I don't want to just be a broken record. We allow for infinite borrowing. Why would school ever get cheaper or stay the same? Why would it? If anyone can borrow whatever they want from the federal government to go to whatever school they want, why the fuck would they not endlessly increase the cost for school? And now it's insane. We have like one administrator per one student. It's fucking crazy.
50 years worth of inflation. But when we adjust for said inflation, the cost to attend public university in 1970 was only around $10,000, less than half of today's cost. When we look at the cost of private universities adjusted for inflation,
well,
it's a huge jump too.
Yeah, but you don't have to go private. If you're choosing to go private, you're choosing to go private.
To more than $52,000 compared to less than $21,000 in 1970.
Yeah, but let's talk about endowments. Endowments are getting larger and larger and larger. It's just a business at this point.
Those really high student debt level burdens are not common in other countries. We're seeing a mass kind of disillusionment with higher education. You know, I think getting a 4-year college degree used to be so intertwined with the American dream.
Yeah.
And some young people are rejecting that.
In one poll, more than half of those who borrowed for education say that student loan debt has caused them to put off making important financial decisions.
I grew up in abject poverty.
Hold on. Okay, what did you get a degree in? Political science. That's your fault, big guy. No offense, you got a pretty much worthless degree. You chose to do that. That is what you chose to do. Struggling to get a job in political science? We're all surprised.
Went to school. I graduated. I did all of the things that they said that I should do, and I am still stuck in the same spot.
This massive burden, combined with others for their generation, paints a bleak picture for the debt crisis. But there's a fourth, lesser known reason that feeds off of this bleak outlook. It's called doom spending.
Okay, well then this just becomes an excuse. This just becomes an excuse at that point. Doom spending is spending you're doing. Doom spending is something you're still choosing to do. And if you want to equate it to something out of your control, it's bullshit.
Doom spending.
Doom spending to cope with the stress.
Home ownership or starting a family
your
is
choice.
so out of reach.
I think that people want to treat themselves to small luxuries.
That'll bring us a semblance.
Want to.
Lens of the kind of adulthood we were promised.
Doom spending. I love it.
It kind of makes us,
You're promised nothing. You're promised nothing. Who has ever actually sat down and promised you that better life? I think we should all strive for it, and we should all strive that the next generation has a better life than us. But when everyone says they were promised something, who promised it? I was never promised anything. Were you promised something? I specifically wasn't. Maybe a politician said it to get elected. I personally wasn't. Go out there, take some personal responsibility. If it's harder now than it was, that's what it is, and we don't have a choice on that, and you have to fight for it. That is the reality. Or we can sit, complain, and give up. But what does that result in the end? Nothing positive for you.
I feel a little bit happier about the situation. So if it's going to be like this regardless, I might as well get something for myself that I like and enjoy.
For me, it's like shopping,
clothing,
travel.
It does alleviate.
Okay, then I don't want to hear about the complaint about wham and so much that when it's clothing, travel. If that's what they're specifically both choosing.
Some of the stress.
Doom spending is like retail therapy with a fatalist twist. A lot of people feel hopeless or pessimistic.
So give up. Give up and see what happens. Don't come crying and begging for the rest of us to pay for it. Give up. Join the military, use the GI Bill. Yeah, it's certainly an option. Obviously, not everyone needs to, and there's ways. Military is a way. There's a community college is something that people dramatically overlook. I mean, look, we had someone earlier in the video talk about $80,000 a year for their school. You don't have to be going there. You don't have to get a political science degree. You can go to community college. You can get certifications. You can get a trade school. You could not go to college. College is great. There are smart ways to go about it. Or we can just give up and say, oh, I'm doom spending because everything's fucked, so I'm just going to go into debt and completely ruin any chance we have in life. Oh, wait, people had it so much easier. Wham, wham, wham. It's like, okay, that's the reality of the world. What are you going to do? Are you going to complain, give up, or are you going to actually try? Try.
About their financial futures. And that's manifesting in a lot of different ways. Some people turn to doom spending.
And this consumer habit is backed by research.
So in one of my research papers, I looked to ask the question, why do people not save enough for retirement ages?
Retirement seems so far away. It makes it hard to put that aside now instead of spending money on the now and then immediate reward and satisfaction and the dopamine releases. But people don't really understand the effects of compound interest and the power that has by investing in an early age. And we live in a very big consumerism culture. So a lot of people just immediately go in and they will just blow everything. They'll blow everything for something they've seen their neighbor have, something their friends talked about, something they saw online. Advertisements are everywhere, and we do not have the self-control.
Stephen Wu, an economics professor at Hamilton College.
And there have been many explanations for why people do not save. Sometimes people lack the information about how to save. Some people might lack self-control to do so. They may know that they should save, but that they're unable to do so. And I introduce another phenomenon, this idea that perhaps people are fatalistic. They think that whatever they do doesn't necessarily affect their future outcomes.
Professor Wu's study.
Whatever they do doesn't affect their future outcomes. Okay, so they're fucking morons. I mean, you can't fix someone like that. I mean, you can just take some big grown-up conversations, but if that's just where people are, it's just like, okay, again, give up. What can you do with someone who's given up? They're done at that point.
Found that those who doom spend or have fatalistic tendencies believe they have little or no control over their future.
So that may lead to individuals to just throw their hands up and say, well, why worry about saving now? Because even if I do save, I may still have financial difficulties.
Yeah, but let's bet on the likelihood that you're going to live a decent while, like the median age, let's say, for death, and prepare for it. If you might have financial struggles, but let's have less financial struggles or less chances of financial struggles. I don't get it. It's a bad argument.
In the future.
Instead of saving, many are splurging on luxury goods to soothe their economic despair.
Then I don't want to hear complaints about, oh, debt's so hard and we have it so hard. If you're spending on luxury goods. At that point, I'm done.
And while 27% of Americans of all ages admit to doom spending, the rates are even higher among Gen Z and millennials at 35 and 43% respectively.
I'm not surprised. And it's moronic. Listen, student loans have sympathy over that, and I think we understand the cause and effects of it. Car loans, car market's a little hard, kind of understanding why. You can have sympathy for that. Going into credit card debt for doom spending That's on you, man. That's on you. I don't have sympathy. It's fucking moronic.
Well, I believe that people do it because they need a dopamine hit.
Younger generations are also growing
it
up
is.
in an online environment of hyperconsumption.
People want this kind of TikTok, Instagram,
Now with TikTok Shop especially.
worthy lifestyle. Never before have young people been so exposed to this aspirational lifestyle.
Partner with L'Oreal Paris to show you guys
where people kind of have these expectations of success and what
It feels like an episode of Black Mirror that they would have made maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, making fun of what consumer culture might look like today. It's crazy.
they want their lives to look like. And those things cost more.
And the rise of buy now, pay later products has driven Gen Z into more debt.
Today, younger
fuck.
people have Venmo, they have PayPal, they have buy now, pay later, they have earned wage access, they have cash advance apps on their phone. It's so easy to lose track of how much you're spending.
And the thing is, I mean, the pay early stuff or pay in 4 or financing 0%, those things are not inherently bad. You can use that and finesse the system. I love that kind of stuff. That's great. The fact is, people get it and they're like, and then they never actually take advantage of it in a proper way, and then they pay massive interest, or they never pay back their early pay on time, and they just get in this hole where they're just trying to catch up forever. It can be used properly. A lot of people just don't. It's the issue.
So what does the future of this ballooning debt crisis hold for young adults? Many are looking to the government for help.
Yeah, but this was struck down by the Supreme Court, so don't have hope there. That's pretty much it. That conversation came to an end. It'd have to be passed by Congress, and I don't see that happening, right?
But young people would need sweeping policy change to truly lessen the burden of debt.
Or get a degree that's worth something.
The emotional toll on younger people facing this debt crisis is immeasurable.
There is a lot of uncertainty, and I think perhaps we may see people saving less. When those generations get older, they may be less prepared for retirement ages.
Younger generations face some of the most difficult economic headwinds of their time.
I mean, yeah. No fucking shit. So are we giving up, or are we going to try to do something?
They're forcing them to take on more debt to achieve the same lifestyle that generations before had.
I don't know, man. Doom and gloom's not going to get you anywhere. I get it. It's easy to feel down, and it's much easier to spend. It's easier to swipe than it is to actually focus on your career. It's easier to swipe and not think than it is to go out there and create a budget and have some discipline, not go on a travel, not get in a luxury item. Listen, if it's all student loans, all housing costs, all low income, I'll have sympathy. But if you go and blow it all on doom spending, you've lost it. And that's that.